Marfoogle News live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf. Let me just fix this real quick. All right, so we have super important stories right now, and I want to talk to you about this because we're going to go over this first story, but then we're going to get into something much deeper. I think that this is far more nefarious than people think. Most people are arguing about what ICE is doing in New York anyways, in Canal Street, grabbing these people, how they just grabbed U.S. citizens alongside this, how some of these guys were actually wearing military fatigues and looked like they were not ICE. We'll talk about all of this here in a second. But first, Trump cancels the plans to send federal troops to San Francisco for the immigration crackdown. Again, President confirmed he spoke with Mayor Daniel Lurie in Silicon Valley leaders about calling off the deployment. It says that Donald has canceled plans for this deployment of federal troops to the San Francisco Bay Area. The timing of this, I'll talk about in here in a second. That had sparked widespread condemnation from California leaders and sent protesters flooding into the streets. The region had been on edge after reports emerged that Wednesday that the administration had poised to send more than 100 Customs and Borders Protection agents and other federal agents to the U.S. Coast Guard base in Alameda, across the bay from San Francisco, as part of a large-scale immigration enforcement plan. So, again, they canceled those. We'll talk about that here in a second. Before we get any further, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Our recommendation is to have one of these on all of your vehicles, your generators, and your home. Those three at least, but you can do cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, pretty much anything you want to keep running after an electromagnetic pulse attack from an adversary. It's one of the biggest threats because all of our adversaries have a system that can do it. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF to save $50 off per device. And again, remember, that also protects you against a solar event, a Carrington-level event from the sun. If that happens, this will also keep your car running so you can get out or bug out or get home to bug in. marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to go over, but we'll just go over that very quickly. But first, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Let me get my my special mouse pad here so I can zoom in and show you stuff. All right. So first of all, I have been talking about this, and I think that in the end that things will look more clear. And I think that it's a risk when you go out with theories that are not exactly confirmed, right? And I wanted to talk about this because this is something that has been a side theory of mine for quite a while now, that there is actually a force inside of our border that is from other countries. Specifically, I believe that we may have some Chinese soldiers here. That is a straight up comment that just saying that alone could have, debunk pieces put out about it, because it's a theory at this point. But it's a theory that I actually believe. And again, there is a lot going on as far as ICE and the border getting locked down. Of course, Golden Dome system getting developed. Well, everybody is watching this whole debacle with Russia and North Korea and, of course, Iran and Venezuela. Over here in China, they are essentially preparing for an invasion. Again, most of the folks think it is an invasion of Taiwan, which it is, right? But there's going to be something that goes along with that. I believe that it will be the kickoff for a massive World War III, that all of our adversaries have now teamed up. They've come up with a plan, a backup plan, and a third backup plan, and even a plan of what to do after this happens, because the world is now currently run by the petrodollar, the currency that pretty much the entire world runs off of, and it is going to change. It is definitely going to change in a few years, so at some point, we have to have sort of a reset. You can't just go from the petrodollar that runs everything to the lithium dollar again and just do that overnight without something happening. There's been massive investments in gold and in silver and in Bitcoin, and it's such a massive investment that everybody is just kind of looking the horse right in the mouth and saying, hey, that's a pig. I'm sorry, I think it is something much, much worse. So first of all, to the news that happened, ICE agents stormed Manhattan. Again, stormed Chinatown like a war zone, grabbing vendors and protesters. Now, they said that that 9 individuals were grabbed. Some witnesses said that they believed up to 25 or 30 were grabbed. So there is a discrepancy in what eyewitnesses are saying. They said it looked like a war zone. At first, there was pieces that said it was just 5 people, but that was clarifying that those were 5 actual immigrants that weren't supposed to be here, and there was 4 U.S. citizens. I'll read this article and you'll see what I mean. They kind of splice in here. Agents affiliated with U.S. immigration, and they specifically, the news says affiliated with. Agents affiliated with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement flooded downtown Manhattan on Tuesday, arresting multiple people, including several illegal vendors and protesters. Authorities and officials associated with the operation targeted Canal Street. It was reported that ICE agents descended on the block located between Lafayette and Center Streets around 4 p.m., sources reported. So this is broad daylight, right in the middle of prime time in rush hour. Vendors known for selling counterfeit merchandise attempted to flee and were seen running in a futile attempt to evade the agents. Get this, WABC reported that police officers were checking IDs and took 5 vendors into custody. According to reports, the situation turned chaotic when protesters against the agency began shouting obscenities and blocking vehicles. It comes after an out-of-control ICE agent, of course, that whole thing that happened where it said do something B, and then ended up taking out the woman. So, again, it says reports show that at least 1 protester was taken into custody for allegedly assaulting a police officer during what is being described as Department of Homeland Security as a targeted, listen to this, intelligence-driven enforcement operation. AMNY reported that during the arrest of 1 vendor, the crowd became enraged and called ICE officers the other N-word from Germany and fascist. It said that the agents began slamming people to the ground, prompting several other bystanders to join the growing mob, according to the report. It looked like a war zone, right? They point out that this was an intelligence-driven enforcement operation, and they said that some were in fatigues. Again, it said, I saw this live in real time in real history. They just started grabbing people and putting them into vans. Brooklyn resident Edwin Jean claimed that the post officers had cuffed him. Then federal agents refused to hand over his ID. According to Jean, he became enraged and started swearing at them. It says, this is the first time this has happened over in Manhattan. They asked for ID and I didn't give it to me, so they cuffed him. It says the Post reported that as Tuesday evening, about 100 people had gathered about 26 Federal Plaza to protest the arrest. It's hard to believe that this is Manhattan in 2025, and it looks like a war zone out here. People are masked up. They're not showing their face. It's just incredibly divisive, and regardless of what your view is, it's a difficult situation. So it talks about that some of them were in military fatigues. Now, ICE, I don't know why they would need military fatigues for the city. Maybe some of them have some, the ICE fatigued out outfits, and it's just their outfit. But it made me think, was there something embedded? They are all saying that there were agents affiliated with ICE and not saying these were ICE agents, right? There were agents affiliated. Who would that be? That could be like a special operations team that was embedded within ICE that went in and got, say, 4 U.S. citizens, or one of the protesters, or one of the other people that were not in part of this. Because now eyewitnesses are saying that they went into buildings. It was not just these vendors on Canal Street. As Dex and I were talking, Dex said, you can get these fake, super cheesy $30 crappy Rolexes there. And he goes, is that really the story, that they're taking out these vendors selling counterfeit, counterfeit? I think that this was connected to something, and I'll show you here in a second. Dex, you've been to Canal Street. They basically sell really crappy, stuff that's straight from China, right?
Yeah, it's a tourist attraction. You want to pick up some counterfeit anything, you go to Canal Street and you can grab it. You can get a Rolex, you can get a Gucci bag, and none of them are real, and they're pretty cheap, and they're not going to look perfect. Like, if you know what a Rolex looks like, it's not going to, but to an everyday person, it says Rolex on it. So if it's cheap enough, you'll grab it, right? But yeah, those are vendors. They're out on the street. They've been there forever, or as long as I can remember.
Yeah, so if you want some fake shotsies, then you go to Canal Street. So, but there was also around this same neighborhood in the Chinatown, there was in Lower Manhattan, in fact, in this same area, there was one of the Chinese police stations that they took down. This was in December. New York resident pleads guilty to operating a secret police station of the Chinese government in Lower Manhattan. I'm just setting the stage here because in Manhattan, in this same area, there is a lot going on. And then again, there was another piece here. Let me show you. Let me back out of this and show you. We'll show you that right after. Let's see here. It's September 8th, and this was the other operation that happened right near Manhattan. It says, yes, in September and October 2025, a Chinese-linked SIM operation was discovered and dismantled by the U.S. law enforcement in and around New York City. Well, the initial discovery was that the New York tri-state area, including sites within 35 miles within Manhattan, subsequent searches uncovered a far larger operation. Now, this was something that was possibly going to collapse the entire cell phone network of New York. Now, New York is not a place that is, strangers to attacks and different things. Obviously, 9/11, everybody remembers that. And everybody, most likely at this point, has their questions about what the hell happened there. But New York is our financial capital, right? It may not be the capital of the country, but it is the capital of money, right? So this is very strange that all in the same area we have all of this going on. Did they use this operation as a cover to go in and do something else? Now, I also want to point out previous arrests and the things that we're hearing about with this. My theory is during the last 4 years when all of these people were coming in, that Muckrakers, evidence, the videos that Muckraker, an independent journalist, took of groups of 30, 40, 50 gentlemen, 18 to 25 from a certain country, all with buzz-cut hair and in fatigues, coming across the Darien Gap and in through the secret route into the U.S. All of these guys very well may have been units, right? That these people would be here. And if they did get here, what would happen? Well, they would get arrested, pulled to the side, and they said, hey, here's your court date. And then they released a lot of them. They even came out and said that they didn't do background checks on these people. So the background check would have quickly said, oh, this is Chinese military. It's very strange that they looked the other way on this. Again, I've been saying this for a long time. But now, again, during the last big ICE thing that we heard of, where was that at? Oh, yeah, Hyundai, where they grabbed a ton of people. And that's at a South Korean car company, right? Hyundai, South Korean cars in Georgia. But yet we have also covered where you have had South Koreans basically saying that North Koreans are infiltrating every kind of business that is South Korean. In fact, they have a question that they ask them. When they're employing, they have so many North Koreans infiltrating South Korean businesses, tech businesses, industrial businesses inside the U.S. as well, that they ask them to say something bad about Kim Jong-un. And if they don't, they spot their South Korean. Remember, South Koreans and North Koreans, they don't look different. They are literally the same DNA. They are the same people. So it would be very hard to tell, other than their official paperwork, if they were North Korean or South Korean. They don't have, again, there's not much difference there, okay? So as far as this goes, the Hyundai plant, that huge operation, I said, man, it seems like a lot of the things we're hearing about are going after Asians in general. It turns out that compared to last year, it is not only tripled, but it is 9 times the amount of Asians that were grabbed up by ICE as there was last year. Again, ICE arrests Asians triple, fueling anxiety. So triple Asians in general, but Koreans and South Koreans, they are being grabbed up in just insane numbers. In fact, I believe it was 9 times the amount of Koreans are being grabbed in the community. So what the hell is going on here? Honestly, my opinion, and this is going to sound crazy until it is either proven true or not, but that I believe that there are soldiers inside of our country. And this is, again, something that people will be able to easily go, oh, mainstream says, the news says it's nothing. Oh, they were just grabbing some counterfeit guys. Dex, this operation doesn't even make sense. Like, these guys have been out there forever. It's part of it. Why do they care about these counterfeiters now? And they go out there with a full force to grab 5 people selling fake Rolexes? Again, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense that they're going after counterfeiters. If anything, they're using this as the cover to say they're using the official narrative to say they're going into this area to take out and capture illegal aliens and would be in that area, right? That's what they're going to say. But given the fact that China has been targeting the U.S. heavily, that SIM attack that was found in New York was based on as China. We had the Chinese um, uh, police stations, as they call them, found in New York, and somebody's already pled guilty to that. There's been a large ring of infiltration of China just in New York, let alone the rest of the country. So I think it's probably much more like they're targeting specific high-ranking or dangerous type individuals related to the CCP. And it just so happens to be the place to get them was in Chinatown there on Canal Street, and everybody else is going, oh, they're just raiding the vendors.
And I want to also point out, if you are in a country and you are using money, so that SIM operation, by the way, it was huge. And they said this must have taken a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they said, this was not a small operation. Now, where would you get money like that that's not tracked and traced by the U.S. Gov, right? I would say selling counterfeit stuff would be one of those. And by the way, in Chinatown here, I know of from my lifetime and having friends and different people that I knew and different freaking shady people that I knew. One of the people, they've got the cheap Rolexes that you see in the counter at some of these places in Chinatown. They're fake Rolexes, and corny people buy them, right? Once you pick up one of these things, it's fake. Well, they also have a whole other market. $45,000, real ones sold for $3,000 or $4,000. We're talking about stolen ones, first of all, and also fake counterfeits that are so good that a Rolex specialist has a hard time, deciding if it is fake or not. Those go for a much higher price. And that kind of money is black market money. That's black market money that is done in cash. And then that cash is used for operations like that SIM, knock down the cell phone towers kind of operation. So it would make perfect sense that, these counterfeiters would be using that. And by the way, the other big operation that happened that I forgot to put in here, car washes. Korean car washes are being hit. Car washes are notorious money laundering sites. So you're not hearing so much about the Hispanic community. You're hearing more about the Asian community. And nobody's putting two and two together? I'm sorry. I think it's quite odd. Either way, it is definitely a time where people need to pay attention. They're going to call this one thing or the other, but I'm telling you, it will only be proven right or completely wrong, and I will absolutely stick my foot in my mouth. Also, a pair of U.S. bombers fly close to Venezuela, spark speculation of an imminent attack. The bombers just keep popping up in the news around Venezuela, and of course these drills that are happening, and then of course this. It appears the U.S. Air Force, for the second time in under a week, conducted a bomber flight near Venezuela's coast as a show of force. It comes after days after the U.S. Southern Command confirmed what it called a bomber attack demonstration mission its skies over the Southern Caribbean last week. Presumably, this is what just happened again on Thursday. So they're saying that they believe that this may be part of an imminent attack that is coming. We'll talk about this and much, much more over on Marfoogle TV, which we're going to cover the last 24 hours in a full breakdown of what is going on. Let me know what you think down below. Again, I would love to hear your opinion. And these are just my opinions. What are yours? Let me know. All right, join us in just a few minutes. Stay in the chat if you want to be ported over, or if you're watching the replay, if you want to reach our full-length show, just click here. I'm never gonna go